Patricia Ann. She had long black hair.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Welcome to Still a Part of Us. We are back here with Melissa, and Melissa reached out to me, and she is a very unique case for Still a Part of Us. She has had, it's been a little while since she's had her loss, and I always am just so grateful for those who have had a loss that's been a little bit longer, that are willing to share with us who have just had a more recent loss. And it just gives me hope that I'm going to make it. You know, it's going to be okay. And so, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, for sure. So let's just get started. Can you, first of all, will you tell us when Patricia was born, what year, just so that we have context for when we're recording this?
January 2nd, 2008.
Okay, so it's been a number of years, 16 years, is that right? Let me think about that. Yeah, so it's been a number of years, and tell us what your family looked like at the time of her birth.
It was me, my husband, my daughter was 4, and that my son was 16 months. So Cassandra was 4 and Jimmy was 16 months.
Okay, so you had a couple before, and I'm
Yes.
sure you were busy because those are fun, busy ages.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about your like your family planning. Did you guys want more kids, or were you pretty good with 2? Tell me a little bit more about any fertility or anything else that you guys were.
No, we weren't planning for her. She was kind of a surprise.
Oh, she was.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And with the 4-year-old and 16-month-old, she was just kind of
You're like, oh.
yeah.
And I should have asked you this because I like to get to know a little bit about you and your families. What did you guys like to do as a family for hobbies, or and also can you tell us where you're at in the country just so that we have context?
We're in downstate, like hour and a half from New York City.
Okay. Great.
So yeah, we just always love going out to parks and swimming and whatever events I could take them to.
Yeah. Because when you have littles, you're like, okay, yes, exactly. What fair or library thing or whatever is available, that's what you do with little
All
kids.
the fairs, they love fairs.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
go
my
ahead.
daughter had her in swimming and lots of extracurriculars.
Yeah, that's great. And what about you and your husband? Did you guys, had you been married for a while? Or how long have you guys known each other at that time?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, so you had your 2, Cassandra and Jimmy, and then it was Jimmy, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so Patricia was a little bit of a surprise. Can you tell me how you discovered that, or how that went? Were you preventing pregnancy, or was it just kind of like you weren't preventing it outright?
No, we weren't preventing, but we weren't trying neither at the same time. And with all of my pregnancies, I had morning sickness the full 9 months.
Oh,
It was it was morning till night, just really bad.
yeah. Okay.
So with her, it was kind of the same. So I knew because I was just getting sick, and my mom was like, "You're not pregnant," and I'm like, "No, I am."
I can definitely tell.
Yeah.
I can definitely tell. You were definitely very aware that you were pregnant because of the morning sickness. And
Yes.
okay, and when you say that you had the morning sickness for 9 months, was it just like, are we talking just nausea, or were you like
No, it
full on?
was just full from morning till night, vomiting all day, every day. Yeah, it was
Oh,
yeah.
that is not great. Ugh. So you probably oh man, that is hard. I did you have to go to the hospital to get fluids and that type of thing?
A few times,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I suspected so.
Yeah,
So,
it was bad.
yeah. Okay, so you felt like you were pregnant. Uh, Tell us, did you like take your pregnancy test? How did you tell your husband? How did you tell your it sounds like you're like, "See, mom?"
Yeah. Well, he kind of knew because of the way I was getting sick, so we both knew, like, and then we took a pregnancy test and it came back positive and
You're like, "Yeah,
yeah.
of course you did."
Yeah.
What were you guys feeling when you saw that?
We were excited. You know, he wanted another boy, I wanted another girl.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
You're like, "Well, maybe one of us will get our wish."
yeah.
And did you then tell anybody else at that time that you were pregnant?
I think everyone pretty much knew because of the
Okay.
way I was, yeah.
You're just
There's
like,
no hiding it.
you're like, it was pretty obvious. So, okay, well,
Yeah.
exciting. Okay. And then did you go into an early appointment around 10, 12 weeks or so?
Yes. Yeah, I went and they did an ultrasound and yeah, we got to see her and it was exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
and I would
is.
take my daughter to the appointments and she would get to, so she was excited too.
Oh, I bet. I bet she was. And she's old enough that she would kind of understand. a-
Yeah.
And that's so exciting. Okay. So both of you guys were hoping a boy, one was hoping for a girl. Were you guys planning on finding out at later or doing any genetic testing? Because I know you can find out a little bit sooner.
No, we just when we were able to find out,
Mm,
so we found out about 18 weeks, I think it was.
okay.
It came out with my aunt and cousin actually came to that appointment and they
Mm-hmm.
came in with us and we came out and we're like, it's a girl, and my husband was like, oh, he wanted a boy.
He's like, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're gonna get outnumbered.
Yeah.
That is fun. And that was the anatomy scan as well. Is that right? That was the 18 week. Well, it's usually
Yes.
around 20 weeks, but some people go earlier, some later, just depending on scheduling. How
Yeah.
did she look at that time?
Everything was perfect. They didn't say anything was wrong. There was nothing that
Yeah.
came up.
Okay. So looking good. I
Yes.
I know you were quite sick, so that is par for the course. Were you worried or anything about this pregnancy? Was there anything that gave you cause to be concerned?
Not really. I mean, just the sickness, but my other two I had the same, so I mean, it wasn't nothing
Ye-
that was concerning to me.
Right. It wasn't out of the ordinary, which is so I feel so sorry for you. It's like 9 months.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, there was
Um,
no break
no
in
break.
between it. No. So, I mean, other than getting sick, there was nothing that was
Yeah.
concerning.
Yeah. Okay. Then so you had that 18-week appointment and tell me about the rest of things. Were you going in pretty I guess after the 20 weeks it's still pretty far out. It's like 4 weeks or so, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and I would go to the appointments and nothing was concerning,
Mhm. Yeah.
any
Uh,
ultrasounds or testing.
and they did do ultrasounds when you went in?
Yeah, I believe I had one at 20 weeks, another one at 24 weeks, but
Oh, great.
then it was like not so often
Right, right.
until towards the end of the pregnancy.
Okay. So you found out it was going to be a girl. Did you guys have other girl names ready to go or did you have a list?
Well, my husband's mother, she passed at the age of 38 from oh, I can't think of what it was. She died from I can't think of what it was. Um
But she passed
yeah,
at
she
a
died at
very, very early age.
yeah, from sleep apnea. And
Oh,
yes, she passed from sleep apnea at 38. And so we knew if it was a girl, we wanted to name her Patricia Ann after his mom.
oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys didn't even have to like argue about it. That
No.
was just what you were gonna do.
Yes, we knew the name.
Okay. Did you ever know his mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My daughter was the first granddaughter, and she had all boys, so
Uh-huh.
it would be the first girl. So she was excited when my daughter came along, but she only was around for a year when my
Yeah.
daughter was younger,
Oh.
so
Oh, that is rough. I'm so
yeah.
sorry. That is hard.
Um, we knew we wanted to name her after her.
Yeah. And I think what a cool tribute to her. So, okay.
Yeah.
So, you were going along on these appointments. All the tests were looking good. Did you have even the glucose tolerance test?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
did that look okay?
Yeah, everything was good with that.
Okay, great. And did you end up having, as you get closer, did you end up having any non-stress tests to check the baby's
Um,
heart rate? I know that that has not
yeah,
always been standard across the board, so I'm always
as
curious.
those I never really, I never had a stress test
Okay.
until my daughter after, because it was high risk with her. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's when they started. But I never had any of the stress test.
For her. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into what happened. So you're going along and you're in your second trimester, still sick, and then you get into the third trimester, still sick. Can you tell us kind of the events that lead up to you finding out that she was going to be stillborn?
Well, if I can go a few days
Yes,
prior,
please do.
it was the 28th of December.
Mhm.
And like we really haven't gotten her anything yet. It was like because with the other two kids, it was just like we were tired all the time and they keep you busy.
Yeah, and it was like the
So,
holidays too. I mean, it's nuts during that time, so
yes.
totally get that.
I had said to my husband, I'm like, I'm like, we have to go out. We have to start, buying things for her. And so we had went to Babies R Us and we got some clothes and we had went and just purchased some things. And then we went up the hill to eat at a buffet. And while I was sitting there, like I felt like a in my stomach a kick,
Uh-huh.
but it was a kick that I've never felt with my other pregnancies.
Uh-huh.
So it was like a really strong kick.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling my stomach and I was like, that didn't, you know, it didn't feel right.
Right.
But I was thinking maybe like she was moving around or turning, so I didn't think too much of it.
Okay.
And then I've never really felt for kicks. It wasn't something that I was, known to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know to check for kicks.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty it's just I feel like it's been really recently that that's a pretty common thing to be
Yeah,
for
so like it,
to be
it
taught.
wasn't
Yeah.
something that I was like, it wasn't something that I did.
Yeah. But that was out of the ordinary for her.
Yeah, for that type of a kick, it was something I've never felt before. It was a really strong kick into my stomach.
Mhm.
But, I just figured maybe she was turning or moving or I believe it was January 1st where I thought I felt a kick.
Mhm.
And I believe they said it's like phantom kicks or something.
Yeah.
I've know that now, but on January 2nd, which was I was due February 3rd.
Okay. So this would have been 36ish weeks then.
Yes,
Okay.
36. My mom, my daughter was in school. My husband was at work, and I had my son at home with me.
Yeah.
And my mom was over, and she said she was gonna leave to go to work. And I jumped in the bath real quick, and I took a bath. And I came out, and she went to go to work. So I laid down with my son,
Mhm.
just take a little bit of a nap before my daughter came home.
Yeah.
And it had to be around like 3 o'clock. And I remember because Dora was on,
Oh.
and they're
Yeah.
like, have a half hour episode.
Yep, yep.
So I was laying there, and I started getting really strong contractions.
Oh.
And it was just like, I was testing the times of the contractions, so they were coming on really quickly and really strong. And it was like time to like every 3 minutes.
Oh,
And
okay.
then,
So
yeah, it was
consistent.
just, yes.
Okay.
And it was like I was keeping track. And around 3:30, my husband came home. So it was about half hour that I was getting them.
Mhm.
And when he came home, I was telling him I was getting contractions. And he jumped in the shower. So I was getting him so strong that I jumped in the shower with him. And I was like, I need the water.
Yeah. It makes it feel
It
better.
that's what I told him, like it's soothing.
Yeah.
But at that point I just with my older two, my water never broke.
Oh, okay.
And with her, it was just like when I was in the shower, I just felt a gush come
Oh,
down.
okay.
And the color it was red. It was like a reddish brown.
Oh,
So my husband asked if I had pooped myself.
yep.
And I'm like, no, I'm like, that was my water.
Yeah.
And I knew by the color of it, I'm like, something's not right.
Yeah.
And, it started bleeding and we got out and called the doctor.
Yeah.
And of course they said to go to the emergency room
Mm-hmm.
and labor and delivery. And all of our friends that were there, because he had two friends that lived down the road,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, no, everything's good. You're just gonna go and have the baby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like we both knew something was wrong.
Really? Okay.
Like we're just like something's not right. It's not supposed to be that color.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, 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 you're good, you're fine. You're just gonna go. They drove me up there, and then my husband waited for my daughter to get home.
Okay.
And then after they dropped me off, they went back to get my husband, but they took me right up and, put the machine on me and looked for the heartbeat. And they were like, I already knew at that point. So they were like, we can't find the heartbeat. And they got the doctor and he confirmed it.
So you were alone. You didn't even have your
No,
husband with you.
no, because he stayed to wait for my daughter
Yeah.
and I was up there alone. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That
And, I kind of held it together, just because, I try to
yeah. Yeah.
keep, positive. And, he came up after he got my daughter off the bus and he started crying. And I kept it together for the most part until that night.
Yeah. So he got your daughter and then he went up to the hospital too. And
Yes,
that's when
after he got her off the bus, he came
okay.
up.
And that you told him.
Yes, I told him, and the doctor was in the room, and they had told him as well when he broke down and started crying. And I was just like, I was telling him, trying them like, we have, even though it doesn't make it, it doesn't help much, but I'm like, we have Cassandra, we have Jimmy, just gotta we gotta stay strong for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
What did the doctors tell you after that? After you guys had they give you time first of all to be with each other and to like cry?
well, yeah, I mean, at that point, it was like, I think like as soon as my water broke, it was like my contractions. I don't know if it was just because of the, with how I was feeling, but the contractions weren't there like that anymore.
Oh,
But it was like really light, but they're still there, but I wasn't feeling them
okay.
as much
Yeah.
because I think it was just, my body being and kind of knowing.
Yeah.
So they came in and then, they let us for a little bit. We were in the room by ourselves and, he was just crying. And then the doctor came in and said that I guess she wasn't fully breached, but um
Oh.
he he told me that it looked like she was turning,
Oh.
and as she was turning, her cord fell into my cervix. So he was like, I'm pretty sure that's what caused it.
Oh. Oh.
So yeah, he said that the cord was in my cervix, and he was like, we can do a C-section, but we don't want to put more stress on you.
Mhm.
So they wanted me to do a delivery. They wanted me
A,
to
a vaginal delivery.
vaginal
Okay.
delivery. Yeah.
So, but she was still kind of not even was she even in position to
No, I guess like the way she was like turned like to where she was getting into position, and her cord fell into my cervix, and that's what
s-
cut off her oxygen.
yeah, cuz then it kind of got pinched down in that area, right? Like so there it
Yes.
was clamping essentially clamping it off so that she
Yeah.
wasn't getting it. Were they able to how were they able to maybe determine that? Was it just on ultrasound that they were able to kind of see that had
Yeah,
happened?
he seen it on the ultrasound.
Okay.
So he was like, what they want to do, they want to do a vaginal delivery.
Yeah.
But what he said was that he wanted to, I guess, put his hand up and turn her, with his hand. So, he we had because it was before COVID,
Yeah.
so we were able to have
The
my mom stayed home with the kids. We had two of our close friends up there with us, and my cousin and her husband came up, so they were there with us the whole time.
Oh, that's so
And
nice. It's
they had
amazing
given
COVID
me
messes with you. You're just like, how many people can be in here now? Yeah, back in the day, you could just have any
yeah.
old everybody got to come. It was a great heyday, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was helpful having them there and
Yeah,
support. So
yeah.
my cousin, her husband, and then our best friends were up there, and she stayed with me while they gave me the epidural. Once it became fully dilated, the doctor had went up and manually turned her with
Oh
his
my
hand,
gosh,
and then yeah.
that probably was not comfortable. But actually, you had your epidural, right? So, but
Oh,
still, I mean,
I just felt some pressure, but at that point, like he had I guess he had helped her to come out. So when she was out, like I didn't even push. Like she was out, my husband was just like, "She's out." I didn't even know she was out when she came
oh,
out.
really?
Yeah,
So it when he turned her, essentially, he was able to bring her
yeah,
out
to help
because
her, yeah, to come out.
okay, because you were already fully dilated,
Yes,
essentially ready
yeah,
to go. Um, that is the weirdest birth.
yeah,
Like, I mean, that right? You're like, I didn't even realize that she was out
yeah. I
until.
remember I was just like laying there, and they had me like in the down position because they had to have like my head more down and my bottom
Oh,
more up so that he was able to do that.
yeah.
And my husband is saying, she's out," and you know, I
Yeah.
still pretty much kept it together at that point. I was the only one in the room that kind of kept it together.
Okay.
After they cleaned her up, they had given us to her to hold,
Mhm.
and she had on her cap, and I took it off and look at her hair, and she had a full set of hair.
I just, oh, it was long and black.
Yeah,
Do
and I wasn't
you?
in labor that long. I
Yeah.
think contractions started around 3,
Right.
and I had her at 10:35.
Oh yeah, that is pretty quick, actually.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, and you guys wanted to hold her, right? You guys wanted to have her. Did your husband cut the cord? I mean, was there anything that he was involved in? I know he was very aware that she came out before you did. So,
Yeah. No, he didn't cut the
okay.
cord or anything.
Okay. And it's interesting because 16 years ago, that birth practices change over time, right? I mean, as we know more things, and so did they ask you what you wanted to do with her when she was born?
Well, I didn't even know like that we were able to keep her for a while.
Oh, okay.
So like when they brought her in, our friends got to hold her. Our one friend, he had just had like a pile. Like when you look down, there's just like there was a puddle of tears
Oh,
from him, and it was, you know, I don't think I cried until that night. Yeah, they all got to hold her,
mm,
and B got to hold her for a little bit. Like I never knew that we were able to. They never explained any of that to us.
really?
Yeah, they never said, yeah, you couldn't keep her for this long or that long. So I think we maybe spent 2 hours with her.
Oh, that
And
is, yeah. And once again, I don't know what kind of policies different hospitals had back then because they changed.
yeah,
Like they've totally changed their way. I feel very, very compassionate and empathetic now. And
yeah,
I
I
think back in the
remember
day, yeah.
the next day, they had told us like, because my mom wanted to come up, and they're like, yeah, well, you can hold her and keep her for a little bit, but then we'll take her, and then when your mom comes up, we could bring her back. And then when that happened, the next day they were like, well, we don't want to take her back out because she doesn't want your mom's not gonna want to see her like that. So my mom never got to see her.
Oh,
And
yeah, that is hard.
I wanted
Gosh,
my daughter to come up, but
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, it's not good. She shouldn't see her like that." But my daughter is old enough now, I know, to understand.
yeah.
But yeah, she didn't get to see her neither.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. That's hard when you're just like, well, yeah. What are my rights and what can I do? And if they don't, unfortunately, you feel kind of helpless, or you're like, well, I got to follow what the rules are of the hospital, and that's what they're telling me.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that was never nothing that was explained.
yeah,
So I never, we never knew.
yeah. Did they have anybody come in and talk to you about anything? Like, because a lot of times they usually have a social worker or someone
Um,
that comes in to talk about like arrangements and that type of thing.
well, at first, like, well, before they came in, the doctor came in, and he was a really good doctor, and he
Mm-hmm.
came in, and he was like, he spent some time in the room with us, and he just explained what happened with her. He was like, if you want an autopsy, he was like, but we're pretty sure this is what happened, so we never got an autopsy, and he was really good. He was like, it's not your fault. This is never your fault, so don't think that it is.
Yeah,
And he was a really good doctor.
yeah. It sounds like he was very compassionate and talked it through with you. And I think it's huge to hear a doctor say it's not your fault. I mean, you're
Yeah.
gonna still kind of think about it, but it's good to come from the doctor themselves.
No, yeah, he was a great doctor.
Um, did they ask you what you wanted to do with her body, like to have it cremated or to be
Um,
buried or how
they
that worked?
came in, but I mean, we really didn't know. We were like 21 at that time and
Yeah,
22.
yeah,
Yeah, we had her first at 18, so she was like when we were 21, 22.
yeah,
So we didn't know much about it,
yeah.
where to go from there. So,
Right.
it's nothing that we've ever, had to
Experienced.
handle before.
Yeah.
So we had called his aunt and she took care of all the arrangements.
Oh, that's
So,
so kind.
yeah.
That's really kind because that's just some yeah, that's one of the things that is so bizarre is to like have to think of funeral arrangements or right or like oh cremation or whatever. That's
Yeah,
just
it's not something that, especially for your child,
you,
it's
yep. For you're 21 and 22 and it's your child. You're like you never think you're going to ever be in that
no.
position and it was just crazy. So that was cool that your aunt was able
Yeah,
to
she took
step
care of
in.
all of it. And I mean, that night after he left, they had given me a stuffed animal.
Uh-huh.
And we got a box with all of her stuff in it. But that night is when after everyone left, is when I cried and broke down.
Yeah.
And they
Um
didn't like they left me in the labor and delivery room, so I was able to hear babies in the other room.
oh, yeah.
And
You're like, "Thanks a lot. Appreciate that."
yeah.
Okay, let me just I just want to back up a little bit so that you tell me how big she was. She's only
Um,
36 weeks, so I'm curious how big she was.
yeah, she was 5 pounds 14 ounces. Or no,
Okay.
5 pounds 15 ounces, I
So
believe it was.
so a
And
really good size.
20 inches.
Yeah, she was a good little size, wasn't she, for 36
Yeah.
weeks?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, all my
okay.
other ones were over 8 pounds and they
Oh,
were
really?
both 22 inches, so
Oh, but the
yeah.
tall and big little. Okay, well that's wonderful. And was there anything you guys did specifically with her
Um,
to make any sort of memories? Because I know that I mean, it sounds like kind of a bit of a whirlwind. So and you only got to spend 2 hours with her, so I'm just curious if there was anything that you tried to do and, like, take pictures or get any
well,
handprints or
that wasn't
anything.
like we should have took pictures, but like they took a picture for us. They took pictures, but they ended up taking pictures at the hospital and sending them to us.
Okay.
The but we didn't know that they were doing that.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm glad that they did though.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
yeah, we got a little locket of her hair and but I mean other
Oh,
than that, I mean we really didn't do much. I mean we really didn't know that we could,
yeah,
and they never let us know any of that. So
yeah,
for us it's like we didn't know that we could.
yeah. So you didn't so you just didn't do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's hard to, like it's funny because when you said, "Hey, I've listened to your podcast before," you probably there's a lot of stuff even when I talk to some people now, I'm like, "Gosh, I wish I would have known I could have done that," you know?
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
like
kind
hearing some things that some parents do and they're able to do, and
yeah.
it's
There's
like
like,
we never knew we could do any of that or keep her for longer or whatever.
yeah, yeah, that's frustrating for you as a parent. I just
But yeah, they had said too that she had passed by the looks of it like 5 days prior. So that would have been the day that I felt her move.
Okay. That big kick during dinner, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So was her skin just starting to be really, I'm sure it was very
Yeah.
fragile and delicate by that
Yeah,
time,
that's when it was starting to
kind of peel.
like heal. Yes.
Yeah. And that's actually really hard for some people to see that. So I think maybe the nurses were trying to protect you, well, and your family from seeing her in a situation where it would have been hard to see. But also, yeah, it's a shame that
Yeah,
you're you're
she looked, besides her skin peeling, she looked just like my oldest when she was born.
really
Uh,
that
except my older two had no hair and she had a full set of
she,
hair.
which is
And
so cute.
yeah, had a lot of heartburn with her too.
You're like, I can tell that it was the hair was coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so they ended up taking her then after a couple hours. Is that what
Yes.
happened? Okay.
Yeah.
How did you feel when that happened?
Well, they left me in the labor and delivery room, so it was like I was able to hear the other babies.
Yeah.
And then that is when once everyone left is when I started crying. They had to give me something to sleep because, I hear all the other babies and
Yeah.
don't have mine, and all I had was a stuffed animal.
Yeah. And
So,
it sucks. You're just like, I'm so surprised that they left you in L&D.
you
That is
know,
like,
and then even though I know it's not my fault, I would think like, what did I do wrong? Even though
yep.
they said it wasn't,
Yep.
it still goes through
Yep.
your mind.
It really does. And it is
Yeah.
torturous because you just sit there and like spin and think and think and think of
Yeah.
all the things. Was your husband still with you after all the friends and such left, or did he end up having to go
Um,
home and
he left with them, but the
okay,
doctor did tell him, he was like, for at least for the next 2 weeks, don't leave her by herself
okay,
and always, have someone with her. That way she's not alone.
okay.
So,
Once again, the doctor is very smart that
yeah.
he understands that this is hard. So you broke down that night. How was your the birthing process? I know it was kind of a really odd birthing process. Did you tear? Were you feeling okay? Did they get
Um,
the placenta and
well,
everything out?
everything was, as once she was out, everything was good
Okay.
with
Okay.
that. And I really didn't, before I didn't get the contractions bad. After the epidural, I was good too,
Okay.
so I really didn't feel much.
Yeah. So you're by yourself and just thinking, needing something to go to sleep also and being in a spot where you don't want to be.
Yeah.
And so you're feeling physically, and I say physically in the sense that
Oh,
the birth was
yeah.
not terrible per se. Obviously mental and spirit, like, emotionally,
Yeah,
it's
it's
totally different story.
different. Yes.
Yeah. Um
I was good, after with all of that though, as far as physically.
okay. Did they How long did you stay in the hospital? Was it just a day?
Just that night and then next day I was able to go home.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I
Yeah.
felt so anxious to get home to my kid.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, you're just at that point, you just want to get home to your children at home
Yeah.
or your kid at home. It's just after going through that, you want to be with your children.
Yeah. That was such a short amount of time though. Like I just can't imagine you started contracting at 3 p.m.
Mhm.
that day and then you had Patricia, you were discharged by the next day, 24 hours.
Yeah, I had her at 10:35 p.m. and then only got like the 2 hours with her, and then I was discharged the next day.
Wow. That is so fast.
Yeah.
That's so fast, Melissa. I just am what a whirlwind.
Yeah, it was
Did you end up telling your children what had happened to their sister?
I did, and of course the 16-month-old, he doesn't understand, but
Mhm. Yep.
the 4-year-old, she knew and she cried, and then it made me realize I should have took her up to the hospital because she did understand and she took it hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that is that those little those little kids, they just understand and they just want to love and It breaks your heart just seeing them cry.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys decide to do with her body? And I know that your aunt set up the funeral arrangements or the arrangements for her body. What did you guys end up deciding to do?
Well, my husband was the oldest son, so they said he
Mhm.
really had the say on this, but what they did was, where his mom was buried,
Yeah.
they actually put the baby's coffin on top of his mom's.
Oh,
At the cemetery, they were like, we can,
yeah.
put the baby's coffin on top of his mom's coffin.
Yeah.
And of course, he asked his dad for permission first, just because that was the right thing to do, but
Yeah.
he didn't mind, so that's what we did.
Oh, the Patricias together?
Yeah, and that's what we're like, that way she's not alone, she's
Yeah.
with her grandmother.
Yeah. How
So,
sweet is that? Did you end up having a funeral or like a graveside service or anything like that with
um,
family?
yeah, we had a graveside service,
Okay.
and um, we showed up, and yeah, all her family was already there, and my daughter broke down, and she was a mess at that. It was hard seeing her like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's when I really was like, she knows, she understood.
Yeah, that was gonna be her little sister, her little buddy. And
Yeah.
oh yeah.
So we just had the graveside, and then we went to his aunt's, had a little get together there
Yeah.
after.
That how quickly was that after she was born? The
Um, well, she was born on the 2nd, and
Uh-huh.
then we had her service on the 5th.
Okay, so just a
So,
few days later then.
yes.
Did you get to see her before she was put into the this little
Um,
coffin?
no, we didn't, but we didn't know that we could. Like,
Uh,
nothing, they never said any of that to us. So
oh.
it was just like, even when, like, so my mom went, they're like, you don't want to see her like that. And they never told us that we could. So this was all things that we didn't
Oh.
know.
That's so frustrating. Yeah, where you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." Thank you so much for telling her story. Like all these years have just gone by and you remembered a lot of the details, which is
Oh,
so impressive to me.
yeah. Yeah, I know.
um
It's just, I think I remember pretty much all of it, it's just,
it's just probably in your brain so
yeah.
strongly. Thank you, Melissa. And I just want to say, do you have any things that we may have missed that you would like to capture about her story?
No, I mean, like, all my friends got to hold her. The two friends that were up there, they got to hold her. My cousin got to hold her, and
Yeah,
yeah, it was just,
there's something really special about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
taking off her hat and seeing that she had the full set of hair, and
Yeah.
yeah,
That is
it was just,
so sweet.
it was- yeah,
Well, Melissa, I'm so sorry for you missing somebody in your family, but I appreciate you telling us her story today.
yeah, thank you.